The Type 56 assault rifle, specifically the Type 56-1, and also known as the assault rifle model of 1956, is a 4-star AR that's available from both normal and heavy construction at a timer of 3 hours and 25 minutes, and from drops on stages 0-3, 4-5, 4-3E, 5-3, 5-4E, 6-4, 6-4E, 7-3, 7-2E, 8-4, 9-3, 10-5, 11-2, and 11-3. Originally, the Type 56 was a carbon copy of the Type 3 AK with a milled receiver, changing to a stamped receiver much like the AKM in the mid-1960s. A key difference between the 56 and the 47/M are the fully enclosed hooded front sight as well as folding bayonets attached to the barrel. There are many other minor details that distinguish a 56 from a 47 or AKM, but they're all quite boring, all things considered, and it would take considerable time to list them out. During the Cold War, the Type 56 was mass exported to many communist-aligned countries and guerrilla forces worldwide, namely in Africa, Southeast Asia, and the Middle East. During the Vietnam-American War, 56s were often found in the hands of the Viet Cong or PAVN soldiers, more so than the Russian AK-47 or AKM. Later, during the Sino-Vietnamese War, both sides used the 56 against each other, as the North Vietnamese still possessed large quantities of the rifle, while the PLA was still equipped with the 56 as their main service rifle. Later still, during the Iran-Iraq War, both sides used the 56 in conjunction with AKMs bought from Eastern Europe. The Mujahideen also were known for using the 56s against the Soviets during the Soviet-Afghan War, obtaining their supply from China, Pakistan, and the USA. Unsurprisingly, there are multiple variants of the Type 56. The one in the game, the Type 56-1, is a copy of the AKS, sporting a underfolding steel shoulder stock and removed the bayonet. And the 56M or 56-5 was an RPK-style 56 with bipod and longer, heavier barrel. There are many other variants not mentioned, but they're mostly minor changes, such as having bakelite furniture. The Type 56-1 is a gas-operated rotating bolt assault rifle, which fires the 7.62 by 39mm or 5.56 by 45mm NATO for the Type 84S cartridge from a 20, 30, 40, or 50 round detachable box magazine, at a fire rate of 650 rounds per minute out to a range of 1 to 800 meters, but is really only effective out to 3 to 400 meters. Inner base character art, drawn by Cancer, I know, weird name. 56 wears a light green tank top with a collar and boob window, wielding riding goggles above her forehead, 2 red star hair ornaments, 2 brown leather belts, 1 thin, 1 huge, green rolled up shorts, a single black glove on her right hand, mismatched length black socks, the longer thigh high being on her left leg and the shorter on the left, a belt on her mid-left thigh, which has a strap attached to her shorts, and brown leather boots. She holds her Type 56-1 with both hands, her right hand holding the grip with finger on the trigger, and left hand on the foregrip. It may be the angle, but the magazine for the Type 56-1 in the art does look quite thin, and more like for 9x18 Makarov, 9x19 Parabellum, rather than 7.62 Soviet. Inner voice lines voiced by Amamiya Sora, who also voices Toka Kitashima in Tokyo Ghoul, Akame in Akame ga Kill, Elizabeth Lyonez in Liz in Seven Deadly Sins, Mia in Monster Musume, Shiho Kamakura in WWW Working, Rui Kanoya in Recreators, Aqua in Konosuba, Illustrious in Les Triomphants in Azure Lane, Chizuru Mizuhara in that cuckold manga, Saori Otori in Zom 100, Dorothy in Grand Blue, Valkyrie Thrud in FGO, Kasumi Yoshizawa in Persona 5 Royal, and Maxwell and Crow in Nikkei, 56 really enjoys food. Also, her mod voice lines aren't included because the wiki did not have the translated version, and I rather not use machine translation.
クリスマスのチキンと ただのチキンの違いがわかんないんだけど。おかわり！人が増えれば、もっといっぱい食べ物がいるよ。指揮官、しっかり頼むね。指揮官？何か命令でも？冗談でしょ？私の料理の腕を見込んでってこと？それとも…とにかく、後で後悔しても知らないからね。もう話さないから。了解。ところで指揮官、食堂でご飯もらってきてくれる？お腹すいた。もう力出ないよ。携帯食は肉ちまきでお願いね。冷めても美味しいから。FNC ちゃんはお菓子をあげると懐いてくる。いい子だな。最近はおやつタイム仲間だよ。食べてばかりじゃないよ。訓練もちゃんとしてるから。訓練後のおやつタイムが楽しみなんだよね。
Like some ARs, 56's main role is launching a grenade to deal with large groups of enemies. Her singular tile only buffs one SMG, giving them plus 10% crit rate and plus 15% evasion. She's best placed on tiles 1, 2, 4, 5, 7, or 8. At level 10, 56's first skill, High Explosive Grenade, has 56 launch a grenade that deals 5 times damage in a 1 unit radius, 2 times damage in a 2.5 unit radii, and 1 times damage in a 4 unit radii. This has an 8-second ICD and 16-second NCD. The grenade does 265 damage to enemies in the 1 unit radius, 106 in the 2.5 unit radii, and 53 damage in the 4 unit radii, or 398, 159, and 80 damage respectively with crits. I assume that this skill works similarly to how STG-44's first skill worked, where the damage does not overlap in the different radii. When fully linked, enhanced, and at level 100, 56 has 138 HP per link for a total of 690, consumes 60 ammo and rations, deals 53 damage, has 35 evasion, 35 accuracy, 69 rate of fire, 10 move speed, a 20% crit rate, and deals 150% damage on a crit. Base 56 is able to equip telescopic sights, hollow sights, red dot sights, night vision, suppressors, high velocity ammo, microchips, and exoskeletons. The recommended equipment for Base 56 is the KST-SP, which was originally only available from getting in the top 10% for the hypothermia event ranking, but I believe it can be gotten from the gray zone in the future when that update drops. And when the KST-SP and the other two scopes are rotated in for the monthly specs. When at max calibration and enhancement, the KST-SP gives plus 48% crit rate and plus 44% crit damage. The other recommended equipment is a 5-star HV ammo and 5-star focus chip. This gives her plus 30 damage, plus 48% crit rate, plus 30 damage, but minus 10 rate of fire. Also, since most players won't have the KST-SP, just replace it with a 5-star scope. This brings her stats to 83 damage, 59 rate of fire, 68% crit rate, and 180% crit damage. Her skill now does 415 damage in a 1 unit radius, 166 damage in a 2.5 unit radius, and 83 damage in a 4 unit radius, or 747, 299, and 149 damage respectively with crits. To fully mod Type 56-1, she will need 3,200 memfrags, 120 dummy cores, 100 affection for all mod levels, and to be at level 100 for mod 1, 110 for mod 2, and 115 for mod 3. This takes roughly 17.5 days or 2 weeks and 3.5 days of grinding the advanced memfrag combat sim for the memfrags, though it can be shorter if there is a raid up. Her rarity goes to 5 stars when modded. In her mod art, still drawn by Cancer, 56 wears the same light green tank top as before, but this time the collar has some ballistic padding, and there's side boob as well as front boob. Her welding/riding goggles are replaced with military goggles. She wears a Jing Kong, Starry Sky, digital camo jacket with Chinese characters on the inside, and a G&K tag. a green carrier rig with radio on the left side of her chest, 4 magazine pouches under her bust, and a button of herself on one of those pouches. A black bag with smaller pouches, a hip holster on her right hip, the same rolled up shorts as before, and semi-mismatched length stockings, with the one on her right leg being a bit higher than her left, both with considerable squish. A knee pad on her left knee, black combat boots, black gloves, and a gun case slung over her right shoulder with Type 69 on the side of it. She holds a 35 by 115mm or 40 by 53mm grenade cartridge in her left hand, while she holds her Type 56-1 in her right with the finger off the trigger. The magazine size issue seems to be fixed, but her 56-1 now has an underslung grenade launcher, either an M203 UGL or more likely a QLG-91, which is based off the M203 and uses that aforementioned 35 by 115mm grenade cartridge. When fully modded, 56 gains 2 extra buff tiles and now buffs the evasion of SMGs by plus 20% and crit rate by plus 15%, both being increased by 5. Her stats are increased to 145 HP per link for a total of 725, dealing 56 damage, and has 41 accuracy, 41 evasion, and 70 rate of fire. Her first skill is the exact same as before, but now it can crit. Her second skill is a long one, so buckle in. At level 10, 56's second skill, Split Pain, has kinda 2 halves. The first half, for every 1% of her missing HP, her damage is increased by plus 2%. The second half is when 56 launches her high explosive grenade, she loses 20% of her max HP and increases the damage of the grenade by up to plus 200% depending on the current link count, with the plus 200% damage being achieved at 1 dummy link. This damage can kill her. I'm unaware if there's a limit on the plus 2% damage for every 1% missing HP, but assuming there isn't, that means that 56 can reach up to plus 198% damage, that's normal damage, if she were at 1% HP. Which would bring her normal damage up to 111 and grenade damage to 555 at 1 radius, 222 at 2.5 radii, and 111 at 4 radii, or 833, 333, and 167 damage respectively with crits, because her S1 can crit now. When at 1 dummy link, 56's grenade does 560 damage at 1 radius, 224 at 2.5 radii, and 112 damage at 4 radii, or 840, 336, and 168 damage respectively with crits. Alternatively, when at 1 dummy link and only having 1% HP left, it does 1,109 damage at 1 radius, 444 at 2.5 radii, and 222 damage at 1 radii, or 1,664, 666, the number of the beast, and 333 damage, respectively, with crits. The spec that 56 gets from reaching Mod 3 is the RS chip, RS standing for Red Star, which, when at max calibration and enhancement, gives plus 15 damage, plus 10 rate of fire, but minus 10% crit damage. The recommended equipment for modded 56 is the KSTSP, or 5-star scope if you don't have it, 5-star HV ammo, and 5-star focus chip, the exact same equipment as her base form. If you're curious why her spec, the RS chip, isn't being used, it's because it's not as good as the focus chip. This gives her plus 30 damage, plus 48% crit rate, plus 30% crit damage, but minus 10 rate of fire. This brings her stats to 86 damage, 68% crit rate, 180% crit damage, and 60 rate of fire. Her S1 now does 430 damage at 1 radius, 172 damage at 2.5 radii, and 86 damage at 4 radii, or 774, 310, and 155 damage respectively with crits. For her S2, when at 1% HP, her damage is raised to 170. For the dummy link scaling damage, when 56 is at 1 dummy link, her grenade does 860 damage at 1 radius, 344 at 2.5 radii, and 172 at 4 radii, or 1,548, 619, and 310 damage with crits. I can't be bothered to do the 1% HP at 1 dummy link, but you can probably guess that it's going to be higher. Neither base nor modded Type 56-1 should ever be considered for use outside of like meme echelons. Starting with her base, 56 suffers from the exact same garbage skill that STG-44 has, the high explosive grenade, not the anti-personnel grenade. This skill wouldn't be so bad if the damage overlaps in the different radii, but it doesn't. There's also her bad singular buff tile with mid-buffs, poor stats that more relate to a 3-star AR than a 4, and the super long initial cooldown of 8 seconds on her HE grenade skill. Then we get to her mod. Her mod is very unique, to say the least, as she specializes in martyrdom and self-sacrifice, and not in the good way like with G36C. The only positives that come from her mod are the stat increases, and her S1 grenade can now crit and get some half-decent damage, I guess. This critting grenade, however, comes at the trade-off of any initial cooldown reduction for her S1 grenade skill, so it's still at 8 seconds, or even any damage increase, or like with what STG-44 got, the overlapping damage. Now, that unique part that I was talking about comes from her skill, which is in 2 parts. The first gives her plus 2% damage buff for every 1% HP lost, which I assume stacks up to plus 198% damage at 1% HP, or roughly 7 HP. The second half is that she gets a damage buff to her grenade for every dummy link lost, up to plus 200% grenade damage at 1 link left. But this comes at the cost of losing 20% HP, 1/5 of her fucking health whenever she launches a grenade. So if you don't want her dying in 5 battles, you have to switch that shit to manual. And yeah, she can die from this. She launches a grenade and somehow it kills her. There's also the fact that her spec is just garbage. It's just a worse focus chip. If you want her to be half decent, you need to wait for the gray zone to come around with the Arctic Warfare ranking specs. Or you're one of those like ancient 5 players who were around when Arctic Warfare was a thing and managed to get in the top % to get those scopes. She's a waste of resources and a waste of an echelon slot. Don't use her, don't mod her. If you want a Grenadier, you'll be using 416 for damage, ZAS for quick shots and apparently larger areas of effect, and FAL for launching 3 grenades. Thank you for watching. Please follow my Twitter for updates, and please check out my other Arknights and Azure Lane videos as well.